Hey, this is Nick from JangaFX. How are we doing today? Let's make sure that this works. This is my new setup, new office, new house, new everything. But I did multiple tests beforehand. Everything looking good? Hello, hello. The Cloud Boys are here. That is for sure. So yeah, new setup, and I'm ready to do our Q2 live stream. It's been a while since I've done a. Is there reverb? Let's see. Okay. Yep. Let me know if the audio is good. But everybody says that on the beginning of a stream. But yeah, so basically, there's been a pretty big delay in what we've been doing publicly, primarily because late last year, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and that has been killing me. And so luckily on some new medication and stuff now, and we are working to try and solve that. So that's really unfortunate, but the good news is I'm great right this second. And so I figured, hey, what better time while I'm good to go ahead and do a live stream and update everybody. Sazimi, I think the reverb is on you. I don't see anybody else that has the issue. You might have two tabs open or something. All right, so health issues out of the way and kind of where we've been and why I've been disappearing. That is why. But the good news is we have a very large team at JangaFX, and everybody's been working very hard to produce some really good software updates. We've got a lot of stuff that's going to come out this summer. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over the roadmap, and I'm actually going to hold myself to it and try and do like a 45-minute live stream today so that it's not, drawn on for hours. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to do the presentation. So this is our Q2 2025 update live stream. You can see some cool stuff here. We've got our suite in the center. EmberGen, LiquiGen, GeoGen, and illuGen. So we're going to talk about these four different tools and tell you what's new with them. And we have like some new roadmaps and stuff like that. We want to open up with kind of our community transparency and things like that. And we will go over that. So the first thing is HTTPS roadmap.jangafx.com. We have a new one that should come out tomorrow on a new platform that we built. If you go to this link right now, you will see a roadmap that uses a tool called Product Board. That's fantastic. You can vote on stuff there if you want, but don't waste your time because tomorrow we're launching a new roadmap that has these various features. And so we want to tell you, our features, on time, are they at risk of, being canceled or delayed? Are they completed? Kind of where are we at in the development process? For years, people have asked, where is Mac? Where is Linux? Where is this? Where is that? Where's camera imports? We'll have all those different features on the roadmap. And from there, you can see the expected timeframes. You can vote on features. The more you vote, the more likely it is that we're going to do that feature first, typically. You can submit new feature ideas per product. You'll be able to leave feedback on individual features. You'll eventually even be able to report like bugs to us through this platform. And then you can like direct link to individual features. So that's going to help us with like support. And we also want to do like detailed change log history as well, where, basically if we have, a release of a software, you can go to this page and it will have embedded videos and things like that that say like, instead of us just saying, we changed the button, from green to blue, we're going to have a video showing you why we changed the button from green to blue and things like that. Because I think it's difficult if we just, type in text what we changed with the UI and we don't actually show you anything. That's kind of a negative experience. And so we want to kind of eliminate a lot of those experiences. So that's going to be coming out tomorrow. But yeah, go to roadmap.jangafx.com right now and you can see the version 1, and then version 2 is coming on tomorrow, and it's integrated with your JangaFX account. You can vote, comment, all kind of stuff starting tomorrow on that. I wish we had it today, but it's not ready. So key milestones for 2025. So right this second, what we are working on is EmberGen 2.0 beta, and we'll kind of go over some of the features of that in a little bit. We want to hit LiquiGen 1.0 this year, so we want LiquiGen to be production ready, for video games and so on. That's going to include VAT exports and higher quality meshing and viscosity, things of that nature. And then we also want to do GeoGen, but GeoGen right this second is kind of frozen. If you look at our roadmap, there's not much on it right this second. That's because the majority of our resources are going into Mac OS development for like all of our products in general. And a lot of the GeoGen team, we built GeoGen as a base for research for what was eventually going to become illuGen. And now that illuGen is extremely far along, we really want to show off kind of what illuGen is and how that's going to help visual effects artists, since that's our primary role as a company right this second. We eventually do want to fully expand, into environment art tools, whether it's vegetation or whatever. But right this second, we really need to finish fleshing out our visual effects pipeline. And so with that, illuGen, damn, there's so many gens. illuGen 1.0 is going to come out this year too. And these are kind of our key milestones. And then notice with 2.0, we're saying beta. That's because the official 2.0 is not going to come out this year. We still have a lot of work to do to get it ready for production. The 1.x versions of EmberGen are pretty much frozen right this second, and it's all hands on deck for 2.0. So for the 2.0 beta this year, we're going to have sparse simulations, VDB imports, Mac OS support, a new combustion model, new GPU particle systems. Simulation retiming is going to be a big one. So, type in that you want your frame rate to be 24 frames per second, and then it just happens. Or if you want to slow down a simulation to be, 1,000 frames per second or something for, super slow motion, you'll be able to do that kind of stuff too. It'll all be based on curves, and it should be really nice. I don't know if we'll have the simulation retiming necessarily this year, but it is at least going to be a part of 2.0. And then we want to have like spline-based forces, and this is stuff that we've already got working to some degree in some of our internal builds. And it's going to be really, really awesome. But the tentative thing is a beta this summer. If we don't release the beta this summer, then it'll probably be, sometime near like the Black Friday time, or, just sometime in Q4. But we're really going to try and get at least something in your hands that you can test this summer. And so this right here is kind of an example of sparse simulation support, and this is the actual frame rate of the software, because this is a absolutely gigantic simulation. And you can kind of see, me going in and zooming in and showing you the quality and how far this simulation can actually go. And our bounding box is like 64,000 cubed or something like that. And so you can really fit as much as you can in your memory as you want, or rather as much as, tongue twister. Let me rephrase that. If you click on the sparse, in the roadmap, if you click on the sparse simulation card, it will give you stats of how many voxels you can fit in your memory. I'll just say that. But it's a lot. We're aiming for billions of voxels on, say, a 48 gigabyte card. If you have a 24 gigabyte card, it's at least a billion. And that is much, much higher than what the current EmberGen can provide. Current EmberGen can really only provide, something like, say, 512 cubed at any, workable frame rate. But with EmberGen 2.0, it's definitely a massive improvement in speed and everything. You can kind of see the sparsity and stuff like that whenever the green boxes came up. Another thing that we're having inside of EmberGen 2.0 is deterministic voxel scaling. And I don't really know if that's the right word for it, but basically you can work at a very low resolution, change your sim. This is the same sim that you just saw that was really slow. But then you can, steadily decrease the voxel size to smaller and smaller sizes. Vastvic in the chat, he said, don't overpromise on the bounding box. Yeah, okay. 64K cubed is more than he can promise. Okay, so it's 8192 cubed. Okay, I was wrong. Sorry. Morton's in here helping out. So, but basically, with this deterministic voxel scaling, you roughly have the same sim, more or less, but you can just give yourself, more detail. So you can work in a lower resolution, export at a higher resolution, and so on. And it's going to be really, really awesome for just giving you much better quality controls, being able to work at a fast pace, export at high quality, and so on, and still get the results that you want. So going to be really, really fantastic for EmberGen. We also have improved vorticity confinement. So, EmberGen 2.0 is a complete rewrite from scratch of everything, right? So it is a complete rewrite of the entire solver, and every single thing that you know about EmberGen is being redone completely. Nothing from 1.0 will be compatible with 2.0 because it's just a complete rewrite. We learned many, many things over the past 5 years, 6 years developing EmberGen, and we just want to restart fresh. And not many tools really, truly restart fresh, but this is kind of our opportunity to do that. And so here at the top left, there's no vorticity confinement, and then at the bottom right is a lot. I don't know the value. It's probably like 0.5 or something, or 50%. And then in between is kind of the in-between values. And you can just see, the added detail. That's really the best way to describe vorticity confinement. And so you can see just the amount of detail that we get in a sparse sim. And though in this particular simulation, it doesn't look like a very large sim, this is a very, very large simulation. And it's much bigger than your standard simulation that you would be able to do inside of your typical EmberGen. So this is really quite impressive. So with LiquiGen 1.0 this summer, we are going to have high quality meshing. We're going to have a proper high viscosity solver with real coiling and buckling. So, if you have, a honey simulation or something like that, and you want it to coil around and so on, it's going to be really fantastic for that. We're going to have full documentation, finally, on LiquiGen. And it's going to be, just as good as the EmberGen documentation with many, videos and GIFs and explainers and so on to just kind of explain the software, really. We're also going to be targeting simulation stability. Right now, if you import meshes and so on, there's a lot of explosions in the simulation and whatever, and we really want to make sure that we, focus on stability this year. And then, of course, VAT support. LiquiGen is ultimately a video game tool. EmberGen is a video game tool, and so we want to have Vertex animated texture support. And then, we'll do, a lot of other updates to our exporter in general, but VAT support is going to come natively in LiquiGen. And then tentative is what we are targeting for LiquiGen 1.0. Stay up to date on our roadmap once we have the health statuses, but we're going to try and do a proper whitewater solver. I believe we're going to try, I think it's called PBF or something like that, but basically like position-based fluids, so the bubbles can collide and whatnot, and we want to be able to render them really nicely. And then we may or may not have variable particle attributes. So, if you want, multiple colors mixing, multiple viscosities, multiple densities, so on, that is something that may come, but we're not entirely sure. And so, is there a plan to improve collision for LiquiGen? Yes, we're definitely going to do that. That is part of simulation stability. So this right here is a quick example of the coiling effect that you can now get out of the viscosity that's going to come out this summer. And so we've got this nice green goo, and it just naturally coils. All you do is just set up the, I don't know why it's not replaying again, but you just set up the parameter, and it just magically coils. Very, very nice. And you can also see some of the buckling of the sim as it, overflows on the coil and so on. This right here is showing our buckling specifically. And so you can see, how the fluid, depending on how fast the emitter moves, the liquid either stacks or it doesn't, kind of flows side to side. And it's really quite interesting to show all of the simulations. And the cool thing is usually you would, play with all your values or something like that and then render them out as different simulations. But because LiquiGen is sparse, we can just have multiple simulations running in the viewport here. And of course, this is all the same simulation node, and so you'll have the same surface tension and stuff. But I do believe that you can change at least the density of the particles and have variable density. So that's pretty interesting right this second. So very, very cool to kind of see, some of the updates on the solver. Of course, with viscosity, it is performance intensive, right? It is a true to life solver where we really try our best to mimic reality. It's not perfect as usual because it is a simulation, but it is very impressive where the viscosity is going. So we also want to do high quality meshing as well. So, one of the big factors inside of LiquiGen right this second is that the meshing kind of sucks. I mean, it's very impressive that it runs, in real time and that we can mesh in real time and all that. But we do want to have a higher quality mesh option, which you can see me toggling on and off here. And you can just see, how much more detail it adds to the simulation. Of course, the detail is there because we have all the particles. It's just the meshing and stuff that was kind of lacking. And so this is just a quick example that I put together to just show that the difference between the meshing qualities. Right this second, we don't have any way to tune, what's the word I'm looking for, but kind of like say, like variable mesh resolution. It's either high quality or it's not. You can't say that I want to add even more triangles or I want somewhere in the middle. We're not supporting that right this second. It's just either a lot or a little bit. And so, but in the future, we will have more meshing options. But for now, this is the research that we've done to kind of give you improved meshing. And I will say that it is definitely a major improvement in meshing quality. You can see how much thinner the tendrils can get and so on. And it's really quite awesome. I think it still needs some tuning because some particles and stuff disappear. But I think it'll be really awesome. So coming with LiquiGen 1.0 is a lot of quality of life features as well. In this case, I'm showing some of our advanced debugging tools. So we kind of built them for ourselves, but we're going to make sure that they're in the tool too, in case you want to debug things. So you can do things like preview 2D velocity slices, which is what's happening here. You can preview 3D velocity slices and so on. And just kind of see, how is your simulation working? Are there any bugs? Are there any weird forces that I'm not accounting for in my simulation? And then the really cool thing is you can see kind of the difference between, so like the field's velocity for the general sim, or in this case, this is per particle. So we have a lot of really cool debugging options that you can have access to inside of LiquiGen 1.0. So really going to be awesome. And I thought that this was just kind of cool to show off. And then, of course, we do have some more advanced liquid particle debugging as well, where you'll see that I zoom in here in a second. And so we actually have a new thing. Actually, whoops, I'm going to just pause it and bring it up somewhere. But I'll pause it whenever it comes here. But this is actually a new particle type that we have too, called, I believe they're isotropic particles. And you can kind of see that they're elongated. So we can get much higher mesh fidelity by using ellipsoids instead of just little spheres or whatever for the liquid. And so that's something that's coming that also helps aid in the creation of higher quality meshes. And you can kind of see that you can have a little bit more control. And you can also preview things as pixels as well if you want to preview your sim like that. And there's a number of different things that you can do to remap, specific colors and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of really cool features coming in for diagnosing or diagnostics for your simulation. So going to be really cool. Yes, there is foam in the software. Absolutely. I believe that's it for LiquiGen. So with GeoGen 1.0, to be determined. We don't know when that's going to come out. It could be 2026. We do know that we are going to release a Mac version of what we have, probably like 0.4.1 or something like that this year for Mac OS. And we'll probably release, some bug fixes and things like that potentially. But other than that, our goal for 1.0 is cliffs and overhangs, high resolution planets and high resolution infinite terrain. And then we want you to be able to work in a low resolution and then do high-res exports. Development is currently frozen for the time being. And what we mean by that is, we are still working on it on the back end periodically on our cooldowns and stuff like that. But between EmberGen 2.0, Mac OS, our new licensing system that we're trying to come out with, because our licensing provider that we use really sucks a lot, so we're building our own for that. It's just a lot of cleanup things that we're trying to do, and GeoGen is the least performing tool in our bucket right this second, and so we're kind of pausing it for the time being, but it is going to get a lot of love in the future, and we want to make sure that we leave it off on a good spot this summer, and then from there, we're going to be focusing a lot on illuGen, and I think that illuGen is definitely the best place for the majority of our time, as you'll see here in a bit. But lots of cool things coming, and so it's just some prototypes to show you that cool things are coming. And so in this case, we have an Unreal Engine terrain. So in this, I actually put 32K. This might actually only be 8 or 16K. I might have typed that wrong. But you can see here in Unreal, we loaded it as, I believe, like a landscape streaming proxy. And so you can see GeoGen working very nicely with Unreal. And you just kind of click and export, and it's going to be fantastic. So this is kind of our hope for GeoGen 1.0 is, more custom engine integrations and stuff like that. So hopefully that can happen. But yeah, so terrain looks small in GeoGen, but it is absolutely massive inside of Unreal. So this is just kind of a quick example, like I said, of some of the research that we are doing periodically. It's just we're not dedicating direct resources to this right this second because illuGen is taking up our dev time. So really, really cool. But this is something that's coming in 1.0. And then going beyond height fields, we want GeoGen to do more than just terrain, right? Every terrain tool does terrain, but not every terrain tool does rocks, right? And so if you need modular assets and you want to kind of go beyond your typical, mega scans import or something like that, and you want to make custom rocks, being able to make custom rocks is going to be possible in GeoGen 1.0. It's kind of one of the big things that we want to do. And you can see that we have, some cool splines here, so you can do, some custom, texturing and painting and whatever on your 3D rocks. And so really, really interesting use of our splines. And of course, these are the same splines that are going to be used in, LiquiGen, EmberGen, and so on for forces, colliders, and also in illuGen for generating, custom meshes. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And of course, like I said, GeoGen has always been kind of our R&D platform for all things meshing and texturing. And then once we make, improvements internally on GeoGen, we then spread the love to all the other tools. So some really, really interesting stuff. Ashley Sutherland says, is LiquiGen for Mac confirmed for this summer? Yes. Yes, as long as everything goes well. As long as it goes well. It could be a delay. You'll have to stay up to date on our roadmap. That is why we have the, at risk, on time, on target, whatever. But the goal is Mac OS for all 4 products this summer, with EmberGen being the least complete and the only one that may not happen. But, it's all tentative, but I think that with the roadmap, we can be transparent about it. So really cool. David JWB, will motion vectors be improved in EmberGen? Yes, we will probably come up with some way to do optical flow. All right, the big news, big news, introducing illuGen. This background was created with illuGen, by the way. So what the hell is illuGen and why are we doing it? Well, let me tell you. Why illuGen? Many applications are used when creating visual effects for games. You're typically using Houdini, Photoshop, Krita, After Effects, Toon Boom, Adobe Animate, FX Texture Maker, which is like a little web plugin thing, Flame Painter, Flow Map Painter, 3ds Max, Maya, Substance Designer, all this stuff, right? And by the way, all trademarks of those names are property of their respective owners, right? We're not saying that we're better than them. We're just saying that we're merging all of it into one tool for visual effects in games and tech art, okay? Voila. These applications generally aren't built for visual effects in games. Nothing that I have mentioned here besides FX Texture Maker and the Flow flow map painter are built for games specifically. illuGen is built for games specifically. Whether you want to paint stuff, whether you want to generate 3D meshes for visual effects, custom UVs, you name it, everything that you could ever need to do besides like an EmberGen sim or a LiquiGen sim will be possible in illuGen. If you are painting in Photoshop or Krita, stop. You're going to use illuGen. If you're using After Effects to animate stuff, stop. You're going to use illuGen. If you're using Toon Boom, stop. Houdini for procedural assets, stop. You're going to use illuGen. It is made for visual effects in games specifically from the ground up. Like it has all the data you could possibly need, and it's going to be coming out this summer. And now the thing is there are some things where, with 1.0, we might not fully support some of the workflows, but as we go past 1.0, we are going to be making sure that a lot of these workflows work. And illuGen is also going to take over destruction. So it will eventually do destruction. We don't know when, but kind of the gist for now is our target is primarily procedural 2D texture generation. Okay, so we want to make sure that you can do any procedural texture that you could possibly want inside of illuGen. We want to do procedural 3D mesh generation. So if you have, sword swipes, or you have, an impact crater, or you have, some weird, spherically distorted mesh for a shield or something like that, you will be able to do it here. Now, I have a lot of examples to come as well. And so in some of the next slides, but we also want to do hand-painted texture support. And the cool thing with that is, say that you have a procedural graph, you can make your brushes procedurally and then paint with them in illuGen. It's going to be really fantastic. We're going to support things like onion skinning, so that if you have, a very, traditional workflow, it's going to be, fully supported of that. And then you can mix it with procedural stuff, and then you can preview your blood splatter on a 3D mesh if that's where you're trying to put it. So there's so much cool stuff. You can also do flipbook encoding and decoding. So you can take flipbooks, auto crop each frame, and then, accumulate it over the life of that flipbook, and then build an erosion mask out of it, or you can, stylize flipbooks or whatever you want, encode and decode them and just use it all in the no graph. And I'll show examples of that too. And then of course, like I said, it's taking over destruction. We're not going to have a separate tool for it. illuGen is eventually going to do that. But not this summer. So, I posted an example. Should we have announced this on April 1st? We should have. Yeah. Well, we probably shouldn't have announced it on April 1st, but that's just what happened. So basically, this right here is a mana orb example. So on the left is what was made in illuGen. And I posted this on my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and people were like, it looks like a shader graph. Why would I use this instead of, Unreal? Because illuGen actually generates the assets. So number one, right here, this is the actual noise textures. And it's kind of cropped out because of the alpha that's packed into it for the Fresnel mask for the coloring. But this is all the complex noise that you would need. And then you would distort it with this UV coordinate plane here. This is a sim that we made inside of EmberGen. Here's a little gradient that kind of says where you're kind of saying the level of the fluid. And then this is the procedural glass that we actually created inside of the software. And so we're going to break this down further. And so from here, we've got the simulation that's looping. I made a little orb sim inside of EmberGen. And then you can come here and import it inside of illuGen. So we have an import texture. We need to do a sheet decode to say that, hey, we only want, one frame at a time. And we want to make sure that we sample the right frames. And then I can distort the actual simulation with this spherical distortion for our UV map. And then we can, do some, RGB to grayscale so that I can use it in the rest of it, do some thresholding and stuff like that. And it's going to give me a really cool sim. For the noise creation, it's very simple. For preview purposes, I had the UVs plugged in, but this is kind of the texture that we generated procedurally, and we have two different layers of noise. So we've got the noise here, and then we have this fractal. And sorry, somebody started like a lawnmower or something outside. I don't know if you can hear it. Hopefully not. But so basically we've got this fractal here, and this is what creates the noise. And then to kind of go further, this is the example of what it looks like once you would distort it. This is the part that you would implement in your game engine, right? So you can preview the full effects inside of illuGen as you're building them, and then export the components. So you could export this UV noise and then plug that in your shader in your game. You would export, this output right here for this shader, and then that would give you, the noise export that you need. And then, of course, as we go further, we do have, say, like some blending examples. So, we've got, multiple layers of noise and so on, and then we're kind of blending them together to test them to, continue building this effect. And then this right here is the simple node graph for just generating the glass. So, we've got the radial distortion. We have a shape. I'm plugging it in, kind of distorts it just right. We've got some noise and like a little, light thing that's happening here. And then a color ramp to kind of, change our colors. Like I said, sorry if lawnmowers are in the background. My neighborhood is quiet 99% of the time, except the one time I stream. Fantastic. And so then, this right here with the mana orb is where you would want to do more of this mimicry stuff inside of your engine. You would need to replicate this. But basically, we have some different color ramps and some ways to kind of blend this. So we're kind of moving a gradient back and forth with a panner. And then that's kind of what gives us that line for the actual orb. And so this is something that's going to be really, really fantastic for generating, just full-fledged effects. You'll be able to preview like a vast majority of the effects inside of illuGen, see how everything works together, and then you can export all the individual pieces. We hope eventually to have like a way to export materials and stuff too, to say, the common engines like, maybe Unreal, Unity or Godot or something like that. But for now, you would have to just rebuild everything. But the primary use case here for illuGen is building the core assets, and then you export all that cool stuff into your engine. And so then this right here is the final graph, and people are like, it's just a shader editor. It's not just a shader editor. It actually generates all the assets you would need for your visual effects. And so it's really, really fantastic. So really, really cool. And so, so this is kind of it. And you can see that, it's a pretty vast node graph. And there's probably like some optimization I could have done. Like I could have used the same, UV noise or the same, radial distortion or whatever, for this orb effect. But I just wanted to go ham and make sure that illuGen can support a lot of nodes and stuff. So this is kind of the full graph example. And that's just like one example of many things that you can do. And this is fully 2D. It looks like a 3D sphere, but it's not. It's 2D. Here's kind of an example of accumulating frames. So I imported a LiquiGen sim, and then we have a sheet decode, and you can accumulate the frames. This was just like a weird thing that I discovered today, actually, and it kind of looks like an explosion. And so this is kind of an interesting way that you could generate unique textures. And you can see that, illuGen is really going to be part of, what do you call it? It's really going to be part of your workflow. So whether you need to assemble flipbooks or whatever, you can bake anything out as a flipbook. Every procedural parameter inside of illuGen, if it can animate, you can export that as a flipbook if you need to, or some set of accumulated frames. If you want to generate an erosion mask or whatever it happens to be. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, and I'm only showing like 2% of the software today. Here's kind of an example of, using a spline, spawning particles on that spline, and then converting it to 2D for some weird, snaky worm effect or whatever. But this just kind of goes to show that there's a lot of different, unique things that you can do to kind of build your effects. And then you would eventually bake these down, whether it's, a VAT texture, so vertex, animated textures, or you have some, Alembic export or USD or however you want to get the data out, right? We give you the data, whether it's scalars, positions, and so on. And then you can export those to your engine and do whatever you want with it, or you can simply bake it down into, simple textures, right? Sorry, that damn lawnmower's throwing me off. So, but anyway, So this is just kind of a interesting example of, how you will be able to interact and do, really crazy procedural animations, far beyond what, the typical procedural tool will allow. And the thing that we want to do is we want to do it, with, very little to no code on your part. We want you to be an artist with illuGen. We want you to be able to make really cool, unique effects, whether they're 2D or 3D, and then just kind of, go ham and use this for all of your texturing needs. And so then this right here is one more example. This is something that I actually did a few months ago. And thanks to, Blizzard and the Diablo guys for making such cool effects for me to be inspired by. I really love Diablo. And so, but in this case, we procedurally generated the 3D meshes here. We procedurally generated the actual noise distortion for this Diablo wing effect. And then, the only thing that we're missing is mesh masking, where on the edges, kind of right here, it's fading out really hard. We don't have a way to bake in an alpha channel or vertex paint for that yet. But this is just kind of an example of the 3D workflow where, if you're trying to make your meshes in game, you can, fully generate it procedurally. You can author all the UVs, very, very easily, change your distortion, make sure it's timed right, see the texture, edit the texture, do everything all in one graph, and then you export it to your game. And it's just so freaking cool. No more bumbling around with 3ds Maxes, straight freaking garbage viewport, right? Nothing, for games. It's great for a lot of other things. 3ds Max is fantastic, except for games, right? illuGen is built for this. It is going to be phenomenal. This is my dream tool that I've dreamed of for many, many years. I think this is my last illuGen slide. Elemental Week, July 28th through July 31st, 2025. That is going to be when we have a lot of our software releases, hopefully. Hopefully things work out for us in our favor. That is what we are targeting right this second. And then we're going to go over each tool, do some crash courses on, EmberGen, LiquiGen, GeoGen, and illuGen, and teach you a lot about how to use our tools. And that is it. There you go. I did very good by compressing that to about 40 minutes for the slides. That was my goal. Okay. Questions. Let me see. Any questions about any tool? All right. I'm proud of myself for not bumbling on. Now's my time to bumble for a minute. There's a lot of, promise with illuGen. We're saying that it's going to do a lot of things. And is it going to replace Houdini? No, it's not going to replace Houdini in general. But can it possibly replace it for visual effects in games? I sure hope so, right? Because you're going to be doing your texture painting, your texture generation, your procedural mesh animation, your procedural mesh creation, your destruction, your pivot painting, your skinned meshes, all that stuff, custom, unique particle systems, or I want to import a character and turn it into a point cloud so that I can do some weird thing to it. Fantastic. illuGen will allow you to do all of that stuff eventually. In 1.0, maybe not for a lot of it, but it is getting there. And our primary, thoughts right this second is the 2D workflow. So going to be really, really fantastic. LiquiGen camera import support. Yes, it is coming in 1.0. Tell me more about the kinds of procedural meshes. Just think of weird distorted planes or, cylindrical meshes with weird UVs or, little rocks or something like that, or, shards, that kind of stuff. It's going to be really just unique, niche stuff that you use in visual effects, whether it's beams or trails or, cross planes or whatever it happens to be. That's kind of the idea for it. How much support do you have for Unity? You usually talk about it in terms of Unreal, but I follow as a Unity user. I mean, these tools, whether it's EmberGen, LiquiGen, illuGen, it's all compatible with anything. I mean, you just export textures and meshes, and Unity can load all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it just naturally will work. Is there any chance we could get a beta or alpha of the rock feature in GeoGen sometime before it's unfrozen? Probably not, because there's just so much that it can't do that it won't even remotely be production ready for a while, I don't think. So we probably won't release that now. Somebody said OFX plugin for post-production workflows. I mean, you could use it for post-production, but our core goal right this second is video games. But I don't know. Maybe there's something you could do with it. Do you have an example of destruction? No, we don't have anything with destruction working right now, but we are doing research on it. Will you have a realistic tree study? I guess you mean for vegetation. We do eventually hope to have a vegetation tool, but no progress on that right now. Are EmberGen, LiquiGen, and illuGen bridged together, or will it be an export/import? For now, it's export/import, but we will eventually hopefully have a way to at least sync up the tools, maybe with a node or something like that, and then it communicates with the other tools. So definitely something that we're working on. 3D coordinates in illuGen, e.g. object-based, absolutely. You can, if what I'm thinking of, like you can make a particle system and then instance meshes on that particle system. You can take vertices and then, of a mesh that you import or generate, and then you can put meshes on that thing, and then you can do all kinds of procedural animation. So if you need a mesh that's, going like this or whatever, like you can animate that, bake it out as a VAT or whatever. So say you have a flag that you're trying to simulate or whatever, you'll be able to do that kind of stuff inside of illuGen. Is illuGen part of the Elemental Suite? Yes, it is part of the Elemental Suite. Will there be caching in LiquiGen 1.0? I don't know if it will be in 1.0, but it will be in 2.0. But I don't know about 1.0. That might be a update for later. Right now, it's not planned, at least for 1.0. But yeah. And so, EmberGen rewrite means can't open old projects, I'm guessing. Will the new version come with cool presets? Yes, you will not be able to open old presets, but you can always have a version of, say, EmberGen 1.2 installed if you need to go back. But yeah, it will not support opening new stuff. It's a completely new solver for everything. But yes, it will come with many, many cool presets. What method will be used to build procedural meshes in illuGen? Anything. I mean, whether it's math or based on some of our presets. You can use splines. You could use, a base mesh that you made somewhere else, or whatever. I mean, there's going to be a lot of really cool tools. Think of, say, geometry nodes. That's more or less kind of some of the control that you'll be able to have, I think, for it. Will illuGen be priced at the same price? It's probably going to cost as much as EmberGen, is my thought. So probably $299, or if you have the suite, then you just already will have it. Instead of several tools apart, are there any plans to fuse all and start getting water and smoke with destruction? No, we just talked about that with our team this past week. And if you want very slow software, then we would merge it. But we want to stay fast, stay nimble, and not run over each other's toes. We'll just have a better way to live link stuff. And then I think that will be pretty good for us. Math nodes in illuGen. I'm sure we will eventually have math. I do know that we have a math node, as Gilles pointed out, and I'm sure it'll be extended in the coming months, like you said. Let's see. Biome Gen would be awesome. Maybe one day. There will be LiquiGen 1.0 this year. Right now we're on alpha. Will there be a in-between version of LiquiGen, say beta 1, beta 2? Maybe, but probably not. Like if we really want like testing help or something like that on like viscosity or something, then maybe. But I think that just to have a big impactful release, we're just going to hold off on releases and just launch it big with 1.0 in a couple months. When is EmberGen 2 releasing? Roadmap.JangaFX.com. It's going to be updated tomorrow to our new platform, but we're hoping some sort of like small beta this summer or later this year. And then like probably official 2.0 is probably sometime next year. It could be next summer. It could be, next Christmas, who knows? It might be pretty far away, but we're working on it, very hard. Somebody said, will the paid explosion preset pack be available in 2.0? Yes, we are going to remake the preset packs and make sure that we carry that over for you. I don't think it would be fair if it didn't work, and it's our fault that it's breaking, so we will fix and update the pack. Is illuGen available? No. Oh, let's see. If you have a student license, yes. If you have a student license, it will be available this summer, but it's still not out. It's going to be a few months. Is VectorAgent still updated? No, we killed VectorAgent like a year or two ago. Did someone say destruction is happening? Yes, it will eventually be part of illuGen in the future. Is there plans for a physics engine? I guess that's what you mean. Yes, illuGen in the future. Any plan for destruction? Yes, in the future. It's going to be part of illuGen probably long after 1.0, but eventually. Any other questions about anything? Let's see. I'm really curious. What's the general consensus on illuGen? It's a really interesting, unique tool, and can you use it for cinematics in Unreal, illuGen? I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. Like you would do the main textures and assets in illuGen, and then you would put that on like your Niagara stuff. So it's going to be really fantastic. Release on Steam? Probably not. We do our own distribution. I don't want Steam to take 30%. We don't have those kind of margins. So yeah, probably not happening. But if you do buy a license from us, it is permanent anyway. So you do own it forever. Will EG 2.0 support colliders with variable poly count? I hope so. I don't know if it will, but I definitely hope so. Any plan for bridging EmberGen and LiquiGen so LiquiGen smoke can interact? Eventually. I don't know when, but eventually. All right. Very cool. As you can see, I am excited. I am very, very happy, to kind of show some of this stuff off. illuGen is my biggest dream and reality besides EmberGen. The real truth is that I suck at all the other tools that I mentioned, right? And so because I suck at it, I just want to make a tool that I'm good at using, and then it kind of trickles down into some Nick-ism or something like that, because my name's Nick. So it just kind of trickles down into that, and that's what illuGen is going to be. And I mean, we have some really cool stuff coming. I mean, I'm kind of erring on the side of not showing me using it live, not because it's broken or anything, but just because it takes a while to like fumble through stuff right this second. And I would like to, get more acquainted with the tool before I show something live with it. Any plans for making your render engine available in other software? Probably not. No, probably not. Let's see. Margins are low because when we have more money, we hire more people, typically. Which, by the way, if anybody knows a web developer in Europe, in that area, let me know. We're looking for someone on the European time zone to do like front end / back end full stack development. So feel free to email us at jobs@jangafx.com if you can do web development. We're looking soon-ish. We definitely need help because we're building the roadmap platform and the licensing system and the account platform and the website. And there's so much just back-end software development that we do to keep our company running that, I don't know, that most people don't see. Let's see. Any LiquiGen updates before 1.0? It's probably not happening. Any plans for UV mapping in LiquiGen? Absolutely. We will absolutely support UV mapping. Yep, it's definitely coming. Yes, you can use illuGen for cinematics in Unreal, say energy beams or force fields like that. It's literally built for making procedural textures, and then you would have to build the effect in Niagara is the thoughts, right? So we're generating the core assets for that effect, the beam and the masking and, maybe even the color palette or, the meshes or whatever it happens to be. And then you assemble that energy beam in Niagara. The point is to at least get a very good approximation of what it's going to look like before you send it to your engine, and then you reassemble it. But it just takes the asset creation pipeline and instead of potentially using, say, 15 tools on your cinematic or your game or whatever, you're using just 1, 2, or 3 tools with illuGen, EmberGen, LiquiGen. That's the hope. I think that covers it. If you have any further questions, you can ask me on Discord. I'm trying to keep this short. But yeah, I hope that you liked it. Some really cool stuff, coming out this summer. I just wanted to give a quick Q2 update. We are working very hard, even though we've been kind of quiet over the past 8 months or so, really since last summer. But we are working very hard. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up, and this summer is going to rock with releases. Whether it's Mac OS or 1.0 for a lot of our tools, maybe a 2.0 beta for EmberGen, you name it. I'm excited. It's going to be cool. Yeah. And if you work at a professional game studio and you want a private demo of illuGen and you want to give us feedback on illuGen, please reach out to me either on LinkedIn or Discord or whatever. I would like to talk to you. And so we would like, more testers for it. We do have some private testing happening. And so we just need, professional level help for, very real game pipelines. And we want to make sure that it meets your visual effects and tech artist needs. Going to be very cool. Any plans for future fundraising? Maybe. Only problem with fundraising is we're then beholden to the person who gave us money, and I don't like to do that. Yep, no poop break. My Crohn's is under control right this second. I'm very happy. That's why I haven't been streaming, because I might have to go use the bathroom 20 times during the stream. For right now, I'm good. All right. Well, that's the end of the stream. I'm locked in at 55 minutes, my shortest stream ever. I won. All right, cool. I needs reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn, Nicholas Sievert. You can even email me at nick@jangafx.com, and we can talk there. So yeah, go back, watch the stream, check out the slides, and take your time and look at them if I went too fast. And we'll see you this summer. We're going to be kind of quiet. Like I said, tomorrow, the new roadmap is coming out. And by the way, whenever the new roadmap comes out, please, please, please comment feature suggestions tomorrow, not on the current platform where it's like the white board and it says product board at the bottom right. Don't use that one. Wait till our new one comes out tomorrow. Then go vote on all the features. comment on stuff, submit new feature requests, and so on. We want to make sure, and I forgot to mention that like we're going to try and build a system where if you subscribe to a feature or you vote on it, we can send you an email that tells you when we completed it or if it got delayed or whatever. And so that way, like you have like very close access to how our development is progressing. Because if you're giving us money, I want to be very transparent on what we're doing. So that's kind of what we're working towards. Damn, my nose itches. I don't know why my nose itches when I talk loud on stream. It happens all the time. Okay, we'll catch you later. Goodbye, and can't wait for you to use our new tools. We'll see you soon. See ya.